This is the moment Japan's a giant tsunami wave crashes into the Fukushima Daiichi power plant.
So I have just one word for Mr. Trump. Basta. Enough!
About this over and over again. What we should be talking about are all the significant problems we have in this country, like entitlement reform, which we've talked about. We should be talking about education reform, and not continue to be talking about all this stuff. You know, enough. We've answered the question.
But did he send the wrong signal or not? Because you said you're going to be all about straight talk.
Well, this will be the 15th time I've answered.
Donald Trump owes every American veteran, and in particular John McCain, an apology.
Jeb Bush saying, quote, "Enough with the slanderous attacks. Senator, all our veterans, particularly POWs, have earned our respect."
Unconfirmed reports resurfaced that escaped Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman allegedly put a $100 million bounty on Donald Trump's head. And this isn't the first the drug kingpin and the GOP frontrunner have traded barbs. El Chapo reportedly told inmates before he escaped from prison that he was offended by Trump's racist remarks about Mexican immigrants, according to Telesur. He was mad. He wants Donald Trump dead and will pay any amount of money if it meant he could have Donald Trump's head, an anonymous inmate told Most Extreme News, which has a reputation as a satirical news site, meaning this could just be another hoax.
Down the World Trade Center, okay? It wasn't the Iraqis that knocked down the World Trade Center. We went after Iraq, we decimated the country, Iran's taken over, okay. But it wasn't the Iraqis. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center, because they have papers in there that are very secret. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center.
On Monday, George W. Bush will campaign in South Carolina for his brother. As you said tonight, and you've often said, the Iraq War and your opposition to it was a sign of your good judgment. In 2008, in an interview with Wolf Blitzer talking about President George W. Bush's conduct of the war, you said you were surprised that Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi didn't try to impeach him. You said, quote, "which personally I think would have been a wonderful thing." Close quote. When you were asked what you meant by that, you said, "for the war. For the war. He lied. He got us into the war with lies." Do you still believe President Bush should be impeached? Should have been impeached?
First of all, I have to say, as a businessman, I get along with everybody. I have business all over the world. I know so many of the people in the way. I'm a self-funder. I have my wife and I have my son. That's all I have. I don't have this. So let me just tell you, I get along with everybody, which is my obligation to my company, to myself, etc. Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, it took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it?
You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied. Okay. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right. Governor when a member on the stage's brother gets attacked, the brother gets to respond.
Do I get to do it 5 or 6 times or just once responding to that? So here's the deal.
I'm sick and tired of Barack Obama blaming my brother for all of the problems that he's had. And frankly, I could care less about the insults that Donald Trump gives to me. It's blood sport for him. He enjoys it, and I'm glad he's happy about it. But I am sick and tired of him going after my family. My dad is the greatest man alive in my mind.
A new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. And today that new world is struggling to be born.
And the World Trade Center, okay? It wasn't the Iraqis that knocked down the World Trade Center.
A new world order can emerge, a new era.
Didn't have any markings on it that I saw.
No, I didn't see any. The second one, I didn't have, like no camouflage or anything,
No, no emblems, no logos.
It didn't look like an airliner.
This one did it on purpose.
Okay.
A black plane. Yeah, we see it going around. He went, yeah, we just saw it.
And the plane wasn't no airline or anything. It was a twin-engine, big gray plane.
What did it look like? And it was a small, much smaller plane, but it, someone said it looked like a military plane, but I'm not sure. I don't know much about airplanes. It was like a military plane. It was a military plane.
Could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot.
A world quite different from the one we've known. A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle. A world in which nations recognize the shared responsibility for freedom and justice. A world where the strong respect the rights of the weak.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be.
I am sick and tired of him going after my family. My dad is the greatest man alive in my mind.
It wasn't the Iraqis that knocked down the World Trade Center. We went after Iraq, we decimated the country, Iran's taken over, okay. But it wasn't the Iraqis. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center, because they have papers in there that are very secret.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant.
Papers in there that are very secret.
Repugnant in a free and open society. People, inherently and historically, opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned. No secret is revealed.
You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center, because they have papers in there that are very secret.
We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind, peace and security.
The word peacekeeping does not appear in the Charter of the United Nations. But for the past 7 decades, our collective ability to maintain international peace and security.
And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
It wasn't the Iraqis that knocked down the World Trade Center.
Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center because they have papers in there that are very secret.
As soon as Congress acts on this bill, the men our intelligence agencies believed helped orchestrate the 9/11 attacks can face justice. Our personnel involved in detaining and questioning captured terrorists. The information that the Central Intelligence Agency has obtained by questioning men like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed has provided valuable information and has helped disrupt terrorist plots, including strikes within the United States. For example, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed described the design of planned attacks on buildings inside the U.S. and how operatives were directed to carry them out. That is valuable information for those of us who have the responsibility to protect the American people. He told us the operatives have been instructed to ensure that the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people trapped above from escaping. That the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people trapped above from escaping. He gave us information that helped uncover al-Qaeda cells' efforts to obtain biological weapons. We've also learned information from the CIA program that has helped stop other plots.
It pervades everything.
And it happened to Martin Luther King.
Its dissenters are silenced.
Dissenters are silenced.
Dissenters are silenced. And it could very well happen to Donald Trump.
Because I believe he is a cancer.
Because I believe he is a cancer. In his book, The America We Deserve, printed in the year 2000.
My God, I'm in trouble for saying this.
14 months before the event actually occurred, Donald Trump accurately predicted that the September 11th attacks would happen, and that the blame for those attacks would fall on Osama bin Laden. Now that Donald Trump's come so far as to seek presidential office,
I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
I'm self-funding my campaign. Very important. Very important. And they put up millions and millions of dollars in these PACs. And those PACs control the candidates. Okay? They don't Carson is controlled by his pack. Totally controlled. Controlled by his pack. They totally control.
The socialists in power want him stopped before he causes any more upset to the status quo.
Because it's all about control.
The American dream is dead. I will bring it back, bigger and better and stronger than ever before.
Their methods? Assassination. A report written by the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service says that there's an active plot to eliminate Donald Trump, and thereby eliminate the threat he poses to the status quo. According to this report, an incriminating device was found in the possession of 5 Saudi Arabian nationals, after their private jet was forced to land. The 5 men were detained by Lebanon's intelligence service forces, who then discovered a heavily encrypted laptop computer device. Lebanon's General Directorate of Security seized this laptop device, and then requested assistance from the SVR, which is the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, to aid them in defeating its complex encryption. Their request was immediately granted. Once this laptop was in the possession of the SVR, this report notes, it was flown to Moscow where computer security analysts were able to unlock its secret information.
The most startling and confusing item discovered within this encrypted computer was a document listing the entire travel itinerary, as well as all of the private security plans of Donald Trump
for the entire month of October. So all of Trump's personal travel itinerary was with a known Central Intelligence Agency route number, and that CIA route number was discovered on a laptop device, which was seized from the same Islamic terrorists who were responsible for the killing of 43 French nationals, according to these articles. This report further notes that this was a routing computer number that the Russian SVR agency had previously ascertained was used by the CIA. It was used in their communications with Islamic terrorist forces that they are supporting and arming in Iraq and Syria, which are operating in the Levant war zone. As to why a CIA-provided itinerary of Donald Trump, this report doesn't state, due to the fact that there were no other documents on the seized laptop, which were associated with that itinerary. The report states, Donald Trump has been reviled by the warmongers from both parties in the United States ever since July of 2000, when he released his book entitled, The America We Deserve, where he seems to have predicted the 9/11 attacks. In fact, this report warns that Donald Trump is so feared by the nation's warmongers because if he should take power, he would likely uncover and reveal all of their dark secrets. In an interview with MSNBC's Chris Hayes, top establishment Republican consultant, Rick Wilson, actually called for Trump's assassination, saying, he's still a very powerful force right now, because he appeals to the part of the conservative base that Wilson said was activated by his nativist message. Wilson insisted that the donor class cannot just sit back on the sidelines and say, oh well, don't worry, this'll all work itself out. Wilson continued, they're still going to have to go out and put a bullet into Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
You bet I did. Because I believe he is a campy.
Put a bullet into Donald Trump. And that's a fact.
My God, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this.
We're leading in the polls.
The rise of Donald Trump has many in the Republican Party screaming that he'll spell disaster for the GOP in 2016. Perhaps the loudest screamer is this guy.
Rick Wilson, a Republican media consultant, no fan of Trump.
Donald Trump's closest confidant is a liberal Democratic activist. Donald Trump could go out tomorrow and eat a live baby on television. They would think it's the greatest thing in America. Giant hair shadow, giant epic douche canoe. The other candidates are going to start dragging him onto the field and beating him with sticks.
So who is this guy? Well, he's rattling the cages from here, 900 miles south of Washington, in Tallahassee, Florida. He lives here in a quiet rural neighborhood with his family, 3 dogs, a cat, and an arsenal of heavy weaponry.
You hear that? This, Trump is basically conning conservatives.
From here, he wages a daily battle against Donald Trump, on television, in op-eds, and online.
I underestimated how powerfully they want to be conned by this guy. They want this guy. They want the big alpha male to sweep them off their feet and treat them roughly. At best, he's a nationalist and a statist. At worst, there's a little delicious hint of fascism. There is a tendency among Trump supporters and among the behavior that Trump exhibits that pleases them. I'm just going to say the F word. There's a certain fascist nature to it.
Earlier this summer, in quite the trolling effort, he wrote an article in Politico that read, "Greetings, Donald Trump superfans. I am a member of to tell you that no matter how much you wish it otherwise, the Donald Trump candidacy is almost over." That went over about as well as you'd expect.
From this consultant class, from the GOP establishment, and so much of the grassroots are not interested in what they have to say in the direction they're leading.
Wilson got his start under George H.W. Bush in the 1980s. He received a political education from Lee Atwater, one of the most viciously talented political operatives ever. Wilson has gone on to produce some of the most memorable and nasty attack ads in the last 20 years.
Terrorists and extremist dictators.
Barack Obama followed a preacher of hate. Ruth Messenger says sex shops are an important part of our city's economic and tourism base.
I don't take any of the, oh, you're so negative stuff to heart. Yeah, you bet. You bet. It was the right kind of bullet. On my computer, right kind of bullet. On my computer back there are probably 300 op-ed books.
300 op-ed books.
300 op-ed books from over the years.
Would you like to share?
Nope.
Now, Wilson is working on a plan within the GOP to take Trump down.
Donald Trump's oppo file is going to be the most magnificent document in history that somebody really drills down. This has to be like shark attacks. Nip, nip, blood. Nip, 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 blood, blood, blood. Feeding frenzy.
So what does all of this mean? Well, according to these online articles and reports, it means that there's an active plot within the GOP establishment, along with the White House, to end Donald Trump's life. And the fact that two partisan groups within these established political parties would cohere to engage in this plot is quite telling. Donald Trump has routinely showed himself to be in command of his own person, and his political platform is independent of whatever influences that may have been forced upon the other GOP and DNC candidates. Donald Trump is also unique in the Republican primaries in the way that he speaks truth to power at every possible opportunity, which is no doubt why he's so feared by the highest officials in government, along with their super PAC puppet masters.
We don't win anymore. We lose to China. We lose to Mexico, both in trade and at the border. We lose to everybody. I want to save the country. Our country's going to hell. The American dream is dead. I will bring it back. Bigger and better and stronger than ever before.
Donald Trump is campaigning as a voice for the people. If his words are true, the incoming despots would surely want him gone. Following the established Russian SVR procedures, when threats are detected against any foreign national, this report says, the Russian Foreign Ministry directed the assassination information to the U.S. Secret Service, who supposedly has the responsibility of protecting that nation's leaders and presidential candidates. The Russian Foreign Ministry report states, they contacted the U.S. Secret Service and were informed that Donald Trump was not under their protection, and they then refused to take the assassination information, referring it instead to Mr. Trump's private security company, which they stated they didn't know who they were, or have any contact information for.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. No choice. We have no choice. No choice. According to Pew Research, among others, there is a great hatred toward Americans by large segments of the Muslim population. Most recently, a poll from Center for Security Policy released data showing 25% of those polled agree that violence against Americans, these are people that are here, by the way, 25, not 1%. By the way, 1% would be unacceptable. 1% is unacceptable. 25% of those polled agreed that violence against Americans here in the United States is justified as part, think of that, as part of the global jihad. 25, not 1%. Global jihad. 1% would be unacceptable.
Global jihad. Violence against Americans.
People over here.
Here, by the way.
These are people that are here. You have no choice. They're here. We have no choice.
And now they're faced with a very real prospect of Donald Trump becoming the leader of the party, and it absolutely drives them crazy. They just cannot imagine sharing. Well, because he's an outsider. He's not them. He's not part of the club. He's uncontrollable. You know, he hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society. And I think that they don't see him. They have no idea how to relate to him.